Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley. And I tell you, you know, we got a superb show today. We had this guest on about 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago, and she was so fascinating that we had to get her back on real soon because what she talked about a few weeks ago was the death penalty and a lot of the things that are associated with that, trials and people, witnesses, and etc. And it was so informative. I had no idea that it was like that, and I want to know more. So we're gonna first. I want to get my absolutely wonderful executive producer and co-host who does all the heavy lifting and I've had to get her on. But I tell you, regardless of where you're watching this at, whether you're watching on 860 TV, YouTube, uh, Twitter, LinkedIn, over 20 something other live mechanism, or radio, listening to it, I tell you what, Michelle, what I want to do is get this radio portion of it started first and just lock everything in, and then we're going to pick it up. So, hey, Todd, let's do it.
It's Your Life is sponsored by James J.C. Cooley.
Life is a series of circles and cycles, phases and stages. These are your experiences that teach you the lessons of life. You can either ignore them or embrace them. Welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life. James is a motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the James Cooley Foundation. James is here to equip you to strive for greatness and to overcome adversity. It's time to get equipped today for the challenges of tomorrow. Now, here's the host of It's Your Life, James Cooley.
Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life, and I tell you, we got an absolutely fantastic show today. Whether you're listening to it on the radio, if you want, or you can always call in 1-866-577-2473. Whether you're watching on E360 TV, whether you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, at all different type of platforms, we would love for you to be part of the show. And that's the easy thing to do. Just like I said, if you want to call into the radio station, ask this great guest of ours, I'm telling you, great guest of ours that we're going to have on the show today. All you have to do is just call in at 1-866-577-2473. And whichever mechanism you're watching it on, all you have to do is just go to the mechanism, ask the question aloud, StreamYard. That's where we're coming from today, StreamYard, to utilize your Facebook picture, and you can ask a question and you can be part of this conversation. I encourage you, everybody, to be, because we got an absolutely fantastic show. Michelle, how are you doing today, my great executive producer?
I am doing great, and you're right. This is an amazing guest. We just had her not too long ago, but she's so fascinating, and she's got so many informative, educational topics to discuss. We just had to bring her back, and I'm looking forward to the show.
I'm looking forward to the show because just like I was saying, we had her on, I guess about 3 weeks ago, and she talked about the death penalty. And we got so many responses, especially when it aired on the radio about 2 weeks ago. and Teresa, I tell you, they want some more of you. I want some more of you. We all need to be educated. We all need to understand. So tell you, Michelle, why don't you introduce the title of the show and the purpose and the great guests that we got on the show today?
Yes, the title of the show is Why Are So Many Minorities and Good Citizens Found Ineligible to Serve on Death Penalty Trials? And the purpose of the show is getting to know mitigation specialist expert Theresa Diamond and talk about the reasons, what reasons do people have to not serve on a death penalty case as a juror, and discuss how you answer void IRE questions as a prospective juror, and discuss cultural differences while serving on a jury, and what is a fair-minded juror. So let's talk about our guest again. Again, Theresa Diamond. She was born and raised in the South Bronx in New York City. She attended public school and graduated from John Jay College of Criminal Justice with a BS in Criminal Justice Administration and Planning. She went on to gain employment in every arm of the justice system available to her After over 25 years from academia, she returned to school and obtained her master's degree in community counseling and completed the first year of her Ph.D. She's held the following positions: civil investigator, criminal defense investigator, investigator for the largest county public school system in Atlanta, integrated the Juvenile Probation Office in Washington State, integrated the Civilian Police Department for the U.S. Navy at Bangor Submarine Base, court bailiff, clerk for judge and traffic court, and many, many more. Teresa relocated from Atlanta, Georgia to San Diego after living there for 28 years. She is currently a mitigation specialist expert hired by various public defender offices in Southern California. The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, brings back Theresa Diamond to the show.
Welcome back, Teresa. How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me back. It's a pleasure.
Well, it would have been extremely bad not to bring you back immediately after that great show that we had a few weeks back. And I tell you, just like you heard me say earlier, got a whole lot of responses from that, where people wanted to hear more. And so, first of all, can you remind our new listeners and viewers who you are, where you grew up at, and just tell them a little bit about you.
Okay. I had 7 siblings. I was raised by a single mother, my mom, who just recently passed. And we grew up in the projects in the South Bronx. And everybody knew us, and everybody wanted to be one of us, even though it was a love-hate relationship. Mostly, my mother instilled in us courage. She did things and didn't talk about them, so she showed us and she demonstrated to us how we can make a change in something. I gave some examples the last time I was on the show, and she wasn't scared of anything, and neither am I. And I think that enabled me to be successful in what I have done in the past and what I do now. I got an extra dose of compassion from my mom as well. She fed people when it wasn't called homelessness, people who didn't have a place to go for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and she would cook and invite them to her table. And I think watching my mom, I developed an extra dosage of compassion for people. And that enabled me to go on through the criminal justice system and elevate to actually doing death penalty cases. People always ask me, how can you help people who killed people? That's between them and God. I believe that our criminal justice system in some ways are broken and flawed, but it still is the best system. And my job is to focus on make sure people get a fair trial, even if they are guilty. So that's who I am. I came to Southern California because my understanding is everybody knows the stats regarding how many African American and other minorities, brown folks, are in jails. But there is not one mitigation specialist in Southern California except for me, from what I understand. And that's why I came out here about 4 years ago to because culture makes a difference. So that's what I've been doing since I've been out here.
Wow. So you mentioned, and just like we said, we talked about the death penalty last time.
Right.
Today, we're going to talk about fairness and why are so many minorities and good citizens found ineligible to serve on death penalty trials and boards. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes. First, I'd like to offer a disclaimer. I am not speaking for anyone else in the industry or anybody else. I'm speaking for Theresa Diamond. These are my experiences and my personal thoughts about being involved in the criminal justice system so long. And these are the conclusions that I've come to, which is why I'm on this show, because I feel a need to pass along information that would empower other people to do a civic duty. And I think it's important. I'd like to start off by telling you a short story. I remember back in 1999, I think it was in Atlanta, and there was a trial that I was involved in. And there were a couple of things that had to happen. One is that juries always look at the defendant. They stare at them when they're reading the charges. And when no family members are present in the court sitting on the side behind the defendant, it makes the jury, it infers to the jury that nobody cares about them. So in this trial, I had to dress up in a suit and sit in the audience. They assumed I was this defendant's mother. I had to do it because my client looked like no one cared. So if that's what the jury thought, then why should they care? Secondly, I would see people answering questions, and it's called, some people call it voir dire, some people call it voir dire. But it's that what it means is the selection of jurors. Everybody gets notices to jury duty. Most people don't want to serve for, good reason. They're not bad people. They don't have the time. If you're self-employed, you lose money. Each state has their own rules about how often you serve and what you get paid. So most working class people who would be the jurors of my client's peers can't afford. They can't afford the daycare. They can't afford to lose sick days on the job or something like that. You don't get paid by the jury system and your job. In California, they pay you $50 per day if you're on a jury. You can't feed your children. So some employers do not pay you while you're serving on a jury. So there's a disincentive to be a part of the whole thing. But this is the problem. If it's your son or daughter who's on trial, you're sitting in the audience saying, oh my God, these are some decent people. Why did they get eliminated? Well, the only way I know how to tell it is straight up, okay? Most African-American people I have seen, when they get questioned, they say, I don't believe in the death penalty. I can't sentence nobody to death. God does this and God does that. And it's their religion that says that. The problem with that, it's not their religion. It's not any of that. You could be a religious person and set aside whatever that is to look at facts and render a decision about guilt, innocence, or death. Most Black people that I've seen have been eliminated by that answer. Oh no, my religion will not allow me to sentence him. I don't feel like I have a right, which knocks a whole portion of people out. I know that there are African Americans that are fair-minded and religious.
Hold that thought. I want to pick it back up. We got to take a station break right now.
Okay.
But the religious thought, why a lot of people, I want you to hold that thought. I tell you, it's getting exciting already. I told you, you might want to sit back and grab 5 or 6 bags of popcorn because she is bringing it. So if you want to be part of the conversation, 1-866-577-3473, or you can go to whatever you're watching on and just tune in to Teresa. It's Your Life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll be back shortly after the break.
There's more stories of greatness to help you overcome adversity coming up on It's Your Life with James Cooley.
Hi, I'm Todd Perry, the producer of the James.
To know who you are. And once you know who you are, You truly know who you are? Love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? And everything that you do.
Life is a series of circles and cycles, phases and stages. These are your experiences that teach you the lessons of life. You can either ignore them or embrace them. Welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Dr. James Cooley is a motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation. Dr. Cooley is here to equip you to strive for greatness and overcome adversity. It's time to get equipped today for the challenges of tomorrow. Now, here's the host of It's Your Life, Dr. James Cooley.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life. We got Theresa Diamond here, and she's bringing it, and she was talking about the death penalty again, but she also talking about why so many minorities, so many good people are disqualified from serving on the boards and these trials. And I tell you, we was talking about that toward the end. We're going to pick it right back up. But if you want to be part of the conversation, that's 1-866-577-2473. That's the radio, wherever you're watching or listening to this at around the world. I mean, you can be part of the conversation. Teresa, I see that what you were saying toward the end about the religion portion, and I think your sister Tracy Diamond said, "I am your sister," and I didn't know that.
Did she really? Yeah, she served on 2 juries. I remember her coming to me. I was early in the criminal justice system, but I remember her coming to me. She was on a trial, and she felt really bad because she voted a certain way on a real serious felony case. And I remember speaking with her about it for the next time. I didn't condemn her or judge her. I just told her what I knew at that point. It was early in my career, and she felt bad about it. She lived with it for a while. And that's the effect of being on the jury. You have to really weigh what you think yourself. Independence is the most important thing, because that's the juror that'll go in the back and fight for you. And they call them holdout jurors for a reason.
I think we might have lost.
Hello?
Hi, Teresa. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay. I think James is having some technical issues, but
Okay, so we're back.
there it is. Okay.
So we kind of took a hit, and what we were saying was that when you was explaining about your sister, how she felt kind of bad about it, and she also said that she also served on the grand jury as well.
Yes, she did. She did. And grand jury is a whole nother slice of the cake. Is when you start when the only one side. That's why the prosecutors have the burden of proof. It's because they're the only ones in the room with the grand jury, and then they tell them what they're alleging, and they ask them to render an indictment based on the information that they presented. Mm-hmm. And that's where a case starts at. But they say they can indict a ham sandwich, so but that truly is where it starts. You can be accused of something but not indicted. So the grand jury are the citizens who actually listen to one side again, and that's why they have the burden of proof, because they're the ones that went to these citizens and said, "This happened. We believe this happened. We believe this is how this happened, and this is what we want to charge them with." And then the jury says yes or no, because sometimes they don't have a bill of indictment. Anyway, the purpose in me talking about jurors, the best way for me to explain it is this way. I remember having being part. I don't know how many trials I've had, but I remember being a part of a trial, and the jury on a death penalty takes much longer than a regular jury. You could have a murder case, and it could take you a couple of days to see the jury. But a death penalty case, everybody runs from. Nobody wants to serve on it. But there are a couple of people and a couple of type of people who do want to serve on juries, and most people don't, because it's time consuming, and it may take up to 3 to 4 weeks sometime, depending on the type of case, if it involved children and all those other factors. I remember helping my team pick a jury. I'm not a jury consultant, but I do read people's body language, and I have a great sense of people in my space. And I always offered what I could to the teams about what I felt about a juror's answer to questions. And I remember going home crying because there were at least 20 jurors, and a majority of them were African American, but not all of them, that could have served on this jury. And I believe that they could have listened to the evidence and rendered a fair verdict. Our job is never not to get someone off. Everybody thinks about it that way. We're all entitled to a jury of our peers. I had a case one time. This will bring the point home, where my client was accused of doing something like 4:00 in the morning. And most of the jury were white. But not only were they white, they lived in the suburbs. So there's a layer of fear of people that live in the city anyway. It was 100 degrees outside at night, like 96. And these folks didn't have air conditioning. That's why they were outside. Well, as a person of color who lived in a poor neighborhood, I know what that means. That means nothing. That means you were outside because it was hot in the house. But they convicted him. When I polled the jurors after they convicted my client, they said, well, we believe he did it because he had who's outside 4:00 in the morning. And I'm saying to myself, you see, this is why it's important to have jurors of your peers. Were they really his peers? Now, people have been arguing this in a higher plane than I'm doing now. And jury consultants get paid lots of money, and they do a fairly decent job. But as citizens, it's not important to people until it's their family member. If somebody comes knocking on your door telling you your son or your daughter has been indicted and they're charged with the death penalty, it becomes very real for them. And you know what they do? They pray every day when coming to court, if they come to court, that they get some fair jurors. And cultural differences make a difference. That example I just gave you. Someone who's living in the suburbs and doesn't know what it's like to live in a hot atmosphere without an air conditioner wouldn't understand why somebody is out in the street 4:00 in the morning, sitting outside. I remember when I grew up in the projects, me and my brother Andre used to sit outside on the bench 2:00 in the morning sometimes because it was just too hot. We didn't have air conditioning. And we were innocent people. We didn't commit crimes. I mean, my mother didn't know we were outside 2:00 in the morning, but, because she would have got us. But we were sitting outside because it was hot. Just as simple as that. So it's important for us. I take my civic duty seriously. They never would put me on a jury, but I go every time I get a summons. I go, I answer all the questions, and they still won't put me on the jury. And I know why they won't put me on the jury, because it depends on the case. It's a science, it's an art to actually pick a juror. For, you want to, it's a process of elimination more than it is something else. And so I am not saying anything negative about people who are religious. I consider myself a highly spiritual person. But I also feel that I'm fair-minded. And what does that mean? That means that I can sit back, listen, watch, look at the evidence, and I feel like I can give a fair assessment of what it is that's in front of me. And I believe most people can do that. The problem is when they start answering these questions, if you were to serve on this jury and had to deliberate whether a death is the result or not, could you do it? Like I said, the first answer is, oh no, I can't do that because my religion won't make me, won't allow me to do that. Whereas some people say, well, an eye for an eye. I believe for an eye for an eye. Some of them get eliminated too, but not many, because a lot of them don't say that. They know that, they feel that, they live that, but they don't say it. So, I mean, if you just really think about yourself, your family, your loved ones that get caught up in the criminal justice system, whether they're guilty or not, I think that most decent people want people to have a decent shot at the criminal. They want a fair trial. The level of fairness is what bothers me. And what bothers me mostly is that most of my clients have been convicted by majority white people. And I have nothing against white people, but that's just a fact that I've seen over 27 years. And I had to ask myself, why aren't Black people or brown people or other minorities willing to serve? And the only answers I can come up with after 27 years is economically, I understand. If you have 5 kids and you have a minimum wage job, it's not affordable for you to be out 6 weeks on a trial. If you have daycare issues and court goes to 5 or 5:30, you can't pay extra money like they charge you per minute. I understand the economics of it. I do.
The economics is important, and we're gonna hold that thought because we got to take a station break, got to pay the bills.
Okay.
But this is so exciting. I tell you, if you want to be part of this great conversation, all you have to do is just pick up the phone, 1-866-577-2473, or whichever mechanism you're watching it on, anywhere in the world. Ask this great lady any question you want to, and we'll get you an answer. Remember, it's your life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll be back shortly after the break.
We are not a charity. We are veterans. We are warriors, brothers, and sisters. We don't need, we deliver. OpsForVets.com. Handshakes, not handouts.
I'm Albert Rencheria, Marine Chief Warrant Officer 4 retired, Ops for Vets CEO. I invite you to take a look at our organization. You'll quickly understand why out of thousands of groups currently serving our veterans, we have become the most rapidly growing and opportunity-rich team in the market. We have deployed dynamic distributors who are responsible for servicing and growing their regions, East, Central, and West. We provide a complete roster of high-caliber services, produced to create the results you require. Find us on the web at www.opsforvets.com. Handshakes, not handouts.
Hello. Hey, I'm James Cooley. I am the founder and CEO of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, Options, Opportunities, / Choice Program. Our primary mission is to help build the foundation of our youth and young adults and communities. And we encourage everyone to dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. And the way that you do that is, first of all, you got to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you are here for a purpose. You also have to be able to step out your comfort zone and do things that you probably didn't think that you can do.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Ignore them or embrace them. Welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Dr. James Cooley is a motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation. Dr. Cooley is here to equip you to strive for greatness and overcome adversity. It's time to get equipped today for the challenges of tomorrow. Now, here's the host of It's Your Life, Dr. James Cooley.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And Hey, Todd, I know you're still listening, man. I know we started out with 5 bags of popcorn. How many you got left, Todd?
I'm done with the kernels.
No, man.
You're funny.
This is so exciting. And I tell you, we're going to keep it going. And I tell you, our viewers and our listeners out there, if you want to be part of this, come on now. You better start asking questions now. If you want to be part of this conversation, 1-866-577-2473, or just go to wherever you're watching it at. Put your comments in, and I'll put them on the screen, and we're answering. You know, Teresa, this is so exciting, and I'm still stuck on something that you said. What is your consideration or definition of a fair-minded juror?
Okay. To me, the way I define it is a fair-minded juror is someone who can open-mindedly look, examine, and weigh evidence, regardless of which side is doing it, whether the prosecution is doing it or whether the defense is doing it. No personality, just facts. Just give me the facts. And they are able to discuss that when it's time to go back in the jury room and say what they really believe about the evidence that's been presented. Oftentimes there are power struggles. Sometimes it falls along racial lines, but not always. So let me give the flip side of that too. A non-fair-minded juror is someone who sits during the entire trial, or however long it is, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, a month, and they go back into the jury room and they just go along with whatever the majority says. Because usually when they go in the jury room, they take an initial vote to see where everybody's at. And then they elect leaders, the foreperson, and then they start to go through the evidence. It has been, and I know this is going to be controversial, but again, this is my experience. I'm not talking about anybody else's. I'm not making a broad statement about anybody or any kind of people. But what I have witnessed is that when there are 1 or 2 minorities on the jury, after I have polled them, after they've come back with a verdict and they're willing to talk to us so we can do better on the next trial, that's the purpose of it, and try to find out what things they went through to arrive at their decision, I was really disheartened because I walked away feeling like the 1 or 2 Black people that were on this jury gave away their power. They were more interested and not appearing to be like them, which is the defendant. Like, I'm not that kind of Black person. How could you do that?
Wow.
They didn't say those words, but I walked away after asking them questions about how they arrived at it. They gave their power away. Every juror has their 1 vote. And 1 vote can stop it. if that's what you really feel after looking at the evidence, a fair-minded person wouldn't give up what they think about the evidence because the majority, and there's pressure, don't get me wrong. There's some people, get ready to fight, or, not all of them are hostile. They just disagree. And I think good people can disagree. That's called a hung jury. Or if one person is the holdout because they say not guilty and all the rest of them say, you can't make that person change their verdict. You can't. So your individual self has the power to do that. And if the evidence in a fair-minded person's mind doesn't line up with what they're asking them to do, don't do it. I think that people are intimidated by the entire criminal justice system, and it kind of throws them a little off. I don't believe that every Black person that was a minority on a jury gave their power away. I'm not saying that, but I've seen that and walked away just heavily burdened with the thought of knowing that an individual is that weak that they could just give up and give their power to someone else. One of the things I take pride in that, I talk about my mom all the time because she built me, is how my mother used to ingrain in us, do not be a follower. Have your own mind. Don't follow anybody. And I was a literal child. And so that's what I did. I didn't follow anybody. If I was ever on a jury and 11 of the jurors said not guilty, and I felt the person was guilty based on the evidence, that's what I'm going to do. So it goes both ways. I'm not just saying to render a not guilty verdict. I'm just saying to be fair about what you just witnessed, what you saw, what it means to you in your mind. If I was charged with murder or death penalty, I'd want jurors of my peers. What does that mean? It's a farce. So if I was charged, I would want people who were maybe within the age range of me. I'd want a mix of people because I have all kinds of friends, white, Asians, Hispanics. I would want an eclectic people who went to maybe college, because I have some, I went to college, and not necessarily college folks, just plain folks who lived in neighborhoods where I grew up or something like that. That's not what you get. And you don't know what the pool looks like. The jury pool, they send out a whole bunch of notices. And then it comes back. Then they send them questionnaires. They fill out the questionnaires and it comes back. And there's an elimination process. Like, for instance, if you're a certain age, you don't have to serve. It varies in states. Most times, 70 is the cutoff. So they do a process of elimination. If you don't live in that jurisdiction anymore, in that county, then that eliminates you. I've been on trials where we challenged how they came up with the pool in the first place, with the jury pool. Like, where did they get it from? Did they get it from driver's license only? Because there's a lot of people who would happily serve on the jury that don't drive. So we would challenge that. So they had a combination of things in some states, and it varies. Some get them from, in Georgia, when I was there for those past 28 years, they got them from not only the DMV, but the voter registration. Well, what if you don't vote and don't drive?
So I got a question. Okay, so who actually chooses the jury? I mean, I know they got a pool wherever they pull them from. Mm-hmm. And how do they go about determining whether this person or that person is a right fit for that particular case, meaning that unbiased?
Okay, so it's a science to this. This is very complex because your cases are won or lost most of the times by the jurors that you pick. So first, the elimination process. All those who are not eligible to serve in terms of zip code, or, you don't live in the county anymore, and, you're a convicted felon, or, so that's the first level of elimination. And the court clerks do that. The jury clerks do that. Then whatever's left over goes to the court. Then the lawyers prepare for this way ahead of time. They know what kind of case they have. And for instance, a lot of them say, well, I don't want to teach you on there because the teacher I have too much compassion, depending on the facts of the case. So it's kind of hard to explain that in a broad sense. But each side, the prosecution and defense, they already know what type of people they'd like to eliminate for whatever reason. And they get what's called strikes. So first, the judge in certain jurisdictions, because it varies, usually asks general questions like, anybody here knows or is related to anyone that's in the courtroom, the lawyers, the prosecution, anybody. And if you raise your hand, they'll ask you a further question, and then they'll eliminate you for that. Automatic, because this is a period of conflict of interest. So the judge asks general questions and follow-up questions. Then both sides, based on when you have left all the questions and answers that respondents from the prospective jurors, each side gets what they call strikes. They can strike you for two reasons. One, for cause. Now, the strike for cause is when the person says, I don't think I could make a decision on someone's life or death. They can say to the judge, I don't want to use one of my strikes for this because I think it's a legal reason that this person should be eliminated. This person should be not served on this jury because they said they cannot, because of their religion or some other reason, render death in this case, and this is a death penalty case. And the judge may do some follow-up answers. Okay, you said your reason was religious. Do you believe you can set your religion aside and look at the facts and render a decision in this case? Most people say no. So they're eliminated, and they didn't use their strikes to eliminate them.
So you're saying that there are strikes involved, and you only have so many of those to.
After the general strikes for cause, then each side has a certain amount of strikes that they can use without even a reason.
Let's hold that thought, because we got to take another station break. I mean, okay. Every time we get like super good, we still have to take that break. I told you. So I'm down to the corn just like Todd was a second ago. Because this is exciting. And if you want to be part of this great conversation, that's 1-866-577-2473. Or just go to wherever you're watching this at, and that's kind of. Remember, it's your life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll be back with some more Teresa shortly after the break.
There's more stories of greatness to help you overcome adversity coming up on It's Your Life with James Cooley. The Jason.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Yeah, hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. I tell you, this is very thought provoking because we as ordinary citizens do not really think about a lot of these things that you're talking about, Teresa.
Yeah.
And it's so important to know that fairness is taken in major consideration because I do believe when you look at the prisons, look at the death penalties or who's on death row, and majority of them are people of color,
Yes.
American, and
Killing somebody right now, today.
mhm. and we, regardless of what color you are or whatever that might be, we just I'm talking about all people want to be
Yes.
treated fairly and want to have an opportunity, whether you're guilty or not.
Right.
You want to have that opportunity in front of your peers that's willing to give you that opportunity. Unfortunately, in what I believe in most cases, it just doesn't happen.
Right.
And we all have to get better with that, and we all have to be able to push aside our prejudice. Uh, we can have disagreements and dislikes, but
Yes.
we all are people. And I just think what you're talking about today is so important that we understand that when they're doing jury selection, you have to get the right people uh, on there that's not biased towards certain things, because you don't live in their neighborhood or whatever that might be. So I commend you for uh, talking about these things. I think Michelle, she got a question for you, and she's on right now.
Hey,
Hi, Teresa.
Michelle.
Hey, Teresa.
Hey.
Very good conversation, but I have a question for you regarding just people in general.
Yes.
We all, no matter what, nationality, no matter what race you are, let's just put it out there. A lot of us, a majority of us have hidden prejudices that we may not be aware of.
Of course.
So if we're selected as a juror, and I don't know if this problem can be solved, how does the selection of a potential juror, how do you weed those type of people out? I know there's probably questions asked for prospective jurors, but maybe they don't even realize it. So can you comment on that? If anything can be done, or if it's just one of those things we have to deal with?
There's a complex answer to that, but from my perspective, if you're talking about the early part of it when the selection is going on, there have been cases where, like, they'll ask them, do you watch these TV shows, for instance? And that's indicative of some of their mindset. What kind of things do they watch? Sometimes judges don't allow that. So you have to figure out a clever way of trying to get at questions that will reveal more about the person. That's in general. Everybody does that, prosecutions and defendants. But really, where I think it can make a difference is in the jury room when they're deliberating. There was a case I had where a woman, the only African American it happened to be, was a juror, and she was the foreperson. And this was pivotal because when she went back in the jury room, after, and I talked to them afterwards, this is how I know what they thought. I'm not just saying this about people, these are facts. So there was a conversation between my client and another defendant when they were passing in a jail. They would, pass each other, and they knew each other. And they did one of these. Now, depending on where you grew up, like that could mean what's up.
Mm-hmm.
She told the jurors, who the rest of them were white, that meant, yeah, I'm going to get you. I couldn't believe it. So the whole issue around that was that my client was allegedly involved in a murder that this guy had served 15 years doing, and he was guilty, but he says now that my guy was the third guy. And they tried to, this was a pivotal issue. If she hadn't told the jurors back there in that jury room what black people think or what interpret black people's head signs, they would have nothing. That was the link. So that's where, to me, you can make the difference. And it's not just a black and white issue. It's cultural issues. It's age issues, all kind of issues. I think we all have prejudices and stuff that we're not aware of. But if I was in a jury room and there was an issue I thought that was being interpreted in a way that doesn't describe all people, or I thought it was different, I would say, I don't think that that's a fair read. That's not the way I read it. And give the other jurors an opportunity to see it from a different perspective. I think that is when a difference can be made. But if you never get to the jury room because you've been eliminated, what difference does it make? And I'm not saying we want minorities or anybody else to just side with the defense. That's not what this is about. This is about fairness, a level playing field. But you can't ignore the race factor. You just can't.
And you're right about that. All we want is fairness. So Teresa, how long does a jury trial? How long does it? I'm talking about
a death penalty case
trial. How long does that last?
Well, it depends. If there are multiple defendants, that's a really long case because each defendant has their own team of attorneys. Mm-hmm. And every time a witness goes up, each one of the teams get to cross-examine that person. It could take weeks or months. Some death penalty cases, now this is Theresa Diamond's opinion, not anybody else's, but some death penalty cases are really just murder cases, and I'm not minimizing people who've been murdered. They're just really murder cases, but because they look like a slam dunk and they're eligible for the death penalty, they charge them with the death penalty. And then the trial is very short. It's very brief. It take probably more time to see the jury than it would to do a case. But when you're on trial for your literal life, your attorneys need to take whatever time is necessary to defend you. So, the judge in those cases usually like to ask, how many witnesses do you have? How long do you expect, your experts to be on? Because in most death penalty cases, you have experts. And then the other side gets to have another expert to counter that expert. So it depends. It really depends. I've been on a death penalty trial that took a week. I've been on a death penalty trial that took a month. And I've been on a death penalty trial that took 6 to 8 weeks, about 8 weeks. So it varies. It depends.
Okay, so most people probably going to say this to the judge who decides exactly what penalty, whether you get life or you get parole, all this type of stuff. Is the judge the only one that determine that?
No. I remember that I had a case in Alabama, and when I got the case, the defendant had already been found guilty and given death. And at that time, what the law was that the judge could impose the sentence. That was later challenged all the way up to the Supreme Court. And then in certain cases, they didn't have a unanimous verdict for death. So they changed all of that. If you don't have all 12 jurors say death, it automatically goes to life without parole. Oh. In the Alabama case I was talking about, the judge that tried the case, I was on the appeal, the first state appeal, and it went back to the judge who tried the case. And he said, well, I had found 21 witnesses that should have been involved in the trial in the first place that the attorneys failed to even know about. Anyway, he's sitting on the bench saying, I didn't know that. Well, duh. That's why we had. Anyway, he reversed
Teresa,
himself.
we down to about the last minute or so of the show, and I got to say this right now. We got to do part 3. Real soon. I mean, if you have time in your schedule, we have to pick this up and do part 3. But 30 seconds or less. What is one major takeaway that you want our listeners and viewers to get from this great conversation?
If you're summoned to court, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, please consider serving. And when you get that summons, say to yourself, what would I do if this was my child, my husband, my uncle, my friend? That's all I can ask people.
That's fairness. Hey, Teresa, I want to thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. Again, you got an open forum. I would like to get you back on real soon. I'd like to thank my great executive producer Michelle Cooley for taking the time to put this together, and also help co-host. I'd like to thank you, the listeners and the viewers, so much. I'd like to thank the radio station led by my great producer Todd. I want everybody to always dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Peace. Your life. Dr. James.
Thanks for having me.